We could just say movement of water and minerals and movement of glucose and amino acids. But this is science, and so we like to have special terms to describe these processes. In this 3-part video, we are going to look at the transport systems in plants for moving food, water and minerals around. We have a beating heart and circulating blood, but what do plants do? Cut a plant open and it doesn't bleed. So what happens instead? Plants have their own systems. They have a xylem, which moves water and solutes from the roots to the leaves, and a phloem, which moves glucose made in the leaves by photosynthesis and amino acids to the rest of the plant. Here are the xylem, and here are the phloem. Notice how the arrangement is different in the stem and the roots. The xylem and the phloem are found in groups called vascular bundles, and the position of these bundles changes for different parts of the plant. Both the xylem and the phloem are made up of rows of cells that form a continuous tube running the whole length of the plant. The xylem vessels are made of elongated dead cells that are impermeable to water and have walls containing lignin, a woody material. Because of this, xylem vessels are tough, which is why the vascular bundles in the roots are in the center. They help prevent the plant being pulled out of the ground. They are also more protected in the center. Whereas the stem has to resist being squashed and bent, and so it has the vascular bundles nearer to the edge to give the stem strength and support. The phloem vessels are made up of living cells. They transport sucrose and amino acids up and down the plant, depending upon where they are needed. Whereas in the xylem, the movement is just one way, from the roots up to the leaves. So we know that water and minerals go up the xylem, and amino acids and glucose go up and down the phloem. But how? So we know all about the xylem and the phloem. But now we need to know exactly how water and minerals move around the plant. You should already know about the structure of the leaf, but if not, watch this video to remind you. Let's have a look at transpiration and the xylem. Transpiration is the evaporation of water from the aerial parts of the plant, so the leaves and stems. By water evaporating out of these parts, mostly the leaves, a suction pressure is created which draws up the water through the plant. This is called the transpiration pull. But what exactly happens in transpiration? Let's start at the roots. Roots have root hairs, giving them a large surface area for water absorption. Water passes in from the soil by osmosis, passing down the concentration gradient and into the root hair cell's cytoplasm, and then onto the xylem vessels. Water moves through the xylem vessels from the root to the stem to the leaf. Transpiration at the leaf causes a transpiration pull, and because water molecules are cohesive, water is pulled up through the plant in the transpiration stream. As well as the leaf cells needing water for photosynthesis, water also keeps the cells turgid, which supports the plant. Inside the leaves, water is drawn out of the xylem cells to replace the water lost through transpiration. Because of the cohesive nature of water, which also pulls the water through the plant, as water leaves the xylem and moves into the leaf, it again pulls more water molecules behind it. But it isn't just about water. The transpiration stream also transports mineral ions that are dissolved in the water from the roots to the leaves. The transpiration rate isn't constant. There are many different factors that affect it. The environmental factors are similar to those that make you sweaty. The temperature, the humidity, but also wind and light intensity. Then there are also physical factors, like does it have a waxy cuticle? How many stomata does it have? The nature of the guard cells, how large is the leaf surface area, and if the leaf is folded or flat. If the rate of transpiration increases, then the rate of water absorption by the roots needs to increase too. When water is scarce, or if the roots are damaged, the plant needs to reduce its transpiration rate by closing some of their stomata. There are guard cells on either side of the stomata, which regulate this. During daylight hours, chloroplasts produce sugar. This lowers the water potential of the guard cells, and they take in water by osmosis. This makes the guard cells turgid. Because the guard cells have a different cell wall thickness, when turgid, they bend more on the outside into sausage shapes. This opens the stomata, or the pore. Water can then be lost. During the night, all the sugar produced by the chloroplasts gets used up, so the water potential of the guard cells increases, More water, less sugar. The guard cells lose water by osmosis and become flaccid, and the stomata starts to close. This reduces water loss. So you now know about water movement through the plant, up the xylem, and pulled along the transpiration stream by the transpiration pull. And unsurprisingly, the plant has methods to control water loss by closing the stomata, based upon how flaccid or turgid the guard cells are. Nearly there. We know how water moves up the plant in the xylem, with some minerals dissolved in the water. And we know that sugars move up and down the plant in the phloem. So all that is left to discover is exactly how the phloem works. We had the transpiration stream and the transpiration pool in the xylem, but there are no forces causing translocation, so something different must happen in the phloem. The phloem uses active transport to transport the food nutrients like glucose and amino acids around the plant. If you have forgotten how that works, watch our video on diffusion, osmosis, and active transport first. Glucose is made in the leaves by photosynthesis. Glucose is converted into sucrose in the leaves, which then enters the phloem vessels, as do amino acids. They then need to be transported around the plant to every single cell. The areas of the plant where sucrose is made are called the sources, and where they are delivered are called sinks. The phloem uses active transport because the sucrose moves against its concentration gradient, from the lower concentration, where it is made, to a higher concentration in the phloem cells. We don't need to know much about the phloem, but just be aware that they contain sieve tube plates, which the phloem sap travels through. The neighboring companion cells provide the sieve tube elements with the energy they need for the active transport. So in these 3 videos, we have learned all about the transport of water and minerals through the plant via the xylem. The transpiration of water in the leaf creates a transpiration pool, which almost physically pulls the water up through the plant. Just picture pulling water up from a well, and that is what is happening. We then also learned about the energy-driven translocation of sugars and amino acids in the phloem. Whereas water only travels in one direction, from the roots to the leaves, the sugars and amino acids are needed by every single cell, and so the phloem is multidirectional. But to achieve this, active transport and energy is needed.